LG recently released a new variation of their dual mode 32-inch monitor, and it's kind of cheaper, and it's also available in white, so let's check it out. Like many monitors, this has a product name that truly is just memorable and rolls off the tongue. This is the 32GS95UV, and the original model that came out a few months ago was the 32GS95UE. Now, the main difference, as far as I can tell, is the speakers. I think this has the same panel, the same kind of housing and stand, same OSD menu. Basically, it's all the same except for the speakers. And the previous model had the Pixel sound speakers, which were apparently really good. I never tried them myself, but many reviewers said that you could potentially even replace your desktop speakers with them. However, this has just typical low wattage monitor speakers that are not going to blow you away at all. Probably not an issue if you're running dedicated speakers, but it would be a nice option if you wanted to hook up a Fire Stick or something and not have to run the audio through your monitor for speakers for that. And strangely, they have the same list price, at least on Best Buy. Both models are listed for $13.99 MSRP. However, they're currently both on sale, and this is going for $9.99, whereas the original model is $11.99. So this has a deeper discount in the sale price, so effectively it's cheaper. Although if you buy it at full price, you're kind of getting ripped off because it's just the exact same monitor except with worse speakers for the same price. Now, before the Glossy gang comes at me in the comments, I do love Glossy OLED monitors. You know, I have a Zephyrus G14 that has a beautiful display on it. However, for Glossy desktop monitors right now, you have to get QD OLED, not W OLED like this. And the room that I'm in has a lot of ambient light. And I actually have a pretty cool view, and I don't want to give that up just for the sake of my monitor. Plus, I do graphic design and video editing, and QD OLEDs have a tendency to shift the black color or turn kind of purpley when there's ambient light. And since I do color work and things like that, that's really not something that I can have going on with my main display. Maybe in the future when we get tandem OLED panels, which are effectively multiple layers of OLED stacked on top of each other to achieve better brightness, maybe then we'll actually get glossy and perfect blacks and better brightness, and that will be, something that you might want to move on to from the current W OLED or QD OLED panels. But for right now in 2024, this is a pretty amazing desktop display. It does have the dual mode functionality, which, unless you're a serious esports gamer, is kind of a gimmick. I mean, I'm not really a pro, but like if I'm playing Fortnite or something that achieves a really high frame rate, even if I'm playing it on 240 Hz on an OLED, I don't feel like I'm wanting for more frame rate or smoothness. I don't know, I don't really get into like Counter-Strike Go or Valorant or some super high frame rate games where that could be some kind of advantage, but considering my gaming skills, I think that my skills would become the issue way more than needing more than 240 frames per second. The dual mode also drops to 1080p resolution, so you're going to have a huge hit to the image quality. You're effectively dropping your pixel count to a quarter of what it was. The physical side of the monitor, it's really a gorgeous display. I like the design a lot. I like how LG has like basically no chin on the monitor and very minimal branding. There's no RGB logo or a big name badge on the chin. It's really sleek and minimal, and I like the design. It has a very sturdy ergonomic stand. It lets you do swivel, tilt. You can do a full 90-degree pivot. It's pretty flexible as far as a display of this size. On the back you have a DisplayPort and two HDMI 2.1 inputs, a headphone jack on the bottom, and no USB-C or KVM switch. So that's kind of a downer. A lot of other monitors in this price range do offer USB-C, which if you have an older MacBook or a non-pro MacBook or whatever ones don't come with HDMI, it could be pretty nice to run video over USB-C. And also having a KVM switch could be nice for a lot of people with different setups. So just bear in mind that it is missing some features that other ones in this price range have. You do get a little bit of RGB LED action on the back. That's, you know, if you don't like it, you can always turn it off, but for what it is, it looks pretty cool as far as RGB implementations on monitors go. Now, I'm not Tim from Monitors Unboxed and I don't own a colorimeter, but to my eye, this is a very good looking display. If you want the colors to be a little punchier like they are on a lot of the QD OLEDs, my recommendation would be to run the Gamer 1 profile, set the black stabilizer to 55, set the peak brightness to high, have your brightness on 100, and then go into the NVIDIA control panel and set the digital vibrance for between 60 and 65%, and that's going to give you a bit more saturated picture, kind of like what you get on many of the QD OLED displays. That looks good to me without looking too oversaturated to where you lose detail in rich color or without blowing out the highlights or shadows. Turning up that black stabilizer to 55 or maybe even 60 if you want could help a little bit with the crush and the black detail that happens with some of these LG monitors. It does have a little bit of VRR flicker. I believe that's a thing with basically every OLED gaming monitor for the desktop on the market right now. Some of the laptops can get away with it without that happening because of their weird polling rate stuff that they're doing with the panels themselves. But as far as desktops go, if you are going to have VRR on with your OLED, there is going to be a little bit of flicker if your frame rate fluctuates a lot. If you're running a capped frame rate or your system can maintain a fairly even frame rate, it's not really going to be that noticeable at all. All in all, this 32-inch 4K 240Hz/1080p 480Hz OLED monitor from LG is really nice, and it is expensive, but it delivers a top-tier gaming experience in my opinion. If you have a white setup and you want one of these 4K OLEDs to match, you really don't have a lot of options unless you want to like spray paint the stand or something. If you get it on the sale price, I think it's actually pretty competitive. I definitely wouldn't pay the $13.99 list price for it though, because you'd be better off getting the original release with the better speakers. There's no reason to pay the same price for something like this that doesn't have the same quality components that something else that's the exact same price has. But at that sale price, I mean, it's $200 cheaper effectively than the original release, and if you're okay with giving up the speakers, then I think that's totally a good trade-off because you're saving money. If you have a setup like this, you're not going to use the speakers anyway, and you have the option to get the new white colorway, which, depending on your setup, if you're like me, you really want to get one of those. And yeah, it's really, if you're in the market for a high-end monitor like this, it's a pretty solid choice. I saw some comments saying that they reduced the warranty to 1 year for this model because it was less expensive, but I don't believe that's the case. On the Best Buy page and the LG product page, they both mention the 2-year Ultra Gear OLED warranty, so I don't think that they lowered it for this model. I believe they're all 2 years. Some of the other vendors, though, I think MSI and maybe Asus, I don't know, some of them offer a 3-year warranty, so keep that in mind if you're worried about it. This LG one does have some other burn-in prevention options that the other ones don't, like the pixel shift, and so they do give you some flexibility there to have more options to manage that. But yeah, that was just a quick look at this new monitor. What do you think? Would you rock one of these in your setup? Do you like the white colorway? Where do you fall on the glossy versus matte debate? Drop a comment down below, let me know. Subscribe if you like this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.